Well, it's bee season, so let's talk about these. If you're unfamiliar with a carpenter bee and what it really is, let me explain. You might see real big fat bumblebees flying around. Well, be wary that some of those are only trying to eat the wood on your fences and your decks, laying their larvae. All they're doing is ruin the structural integrity, going to end up costing you money when it falls apart, when you can stop them with one of these. Check this out. This guy was hovering around my porch trying to get in my soffits. Turns out, he found my trap, and now he's stopped. So the really cool thing about carpenter bees is the holes they make are exactly 1/2 of an inch in diameter. And that's pretty cool because nature makes a consistent thing that will always be repeatable. Every bee will leave a 1/2 inch hole. Well, that's what we do. We mimic that exact same hole with a 1/2 inch hole. We put ours on a 45 that goes up to a center hole that's inside. Like that. So they go in the hole, they go into the center 3/4 inch hole so they can make a turn, and then they head towards the light that ultimately ends up in the jar and stops them. This took a lot of hard work and cost money. I don't want to ruin it. Don't let them ruin your stuff. Here's a good example of what they're doing. They've been tearing this one fence up. This is an old fence, but they don't care. They love it. They're boring all these holes and destroying this. And imagine if they kept doing this all over the place. That fence would become so weak, the first big gust, it's going to fall over. And that's where you're getting these problems from. So stop it with one of these. We have two options. You can either hang it from the hook on top when you're hanging them on the fence. Everybody wonders, well, what should you do? Well, I hang mine on each post. That's about 8 foot apart, which is a pretty good distance. If you have a super active corner, like for some reason they super love that post, well, I put 2 there. Make sure they get in them. I really want to give the best efforts to myself to catch them and stop them from those holes. Now, I just put this little pergola deal thing over my porch, and I don't want them to eat it up. So, again, I went ahead and I did a little preventative maintenance, and I hung them up on these posts to keep them away from it because it's good fresh wood. Yeah, it's stained, and that's supposed to help, but they still go after it. I tried putting oil and all kinds of stuff on that one post over there, and sometimes it just doesn't matter. So give them another option that's not your fence. Like one of these. We have 2 options. We have Douglas fir and we have cedar. Now cedar's a little more expensive. However, I have hung up cedar, pine, and Douglas fir all next to each other in a very active yard of my friend's house to do an experiment. And lo and behold, every single time, that cedar was full. Absolutely filled. There's only 1 or 2 that ended up in the Douglas fir, and almost none went for the pine. So that told me cedar does really well. Now, I even set up Douglas firs and pines in my yard, and they really weren't catching that fast. But I hung up one of these, cedar, and they started going in there quick, fast, and in a hurry. So I can speak from experience that cedar does work. It works really well. And it's worth it because I'd rather spend $20 on that thing than have to hire someone else to come out, dig out a whole post, and re-cement it in. Or even if I did it myself to try to save money, man, that's a lot of effort. Why put yourself through it when you can just use one of these? Some people have an argument of killing pollinator bees, and I get it. They do collect pollen, and they do help transfer some pollen between trees. But their main job isn't to be a pollinator. So don't get completely confused. They are doing pollinating in passing, but they're just collecting that pollen to help fill up their holes, to create these little pockets for their larvae. Watch. See that little capsule in between each larva? That's all their pollen and their spit and all the nutrients that they just take and put in there. That's what they're doing. Their sole purpose is to live and survive, and that's what they're doing. Just creating more and digging holes in order to do it. So now you know what they're doing. So how are you going to stop them? With one of these. Seriously, go check us out. Take a look. Now you guys know more. If you guys got questions or maybe you know something I don't, let let me know, and we can help educate each other, and we can all learn how to effectively keep things away and help protect our property. But this seems like a pretty quick and easy option to me. WeBeCatching.com. Go hit us up. Go check us out. And stop them. Silly little guy. I'll leave you one last thing. A lot of people ask what to use them for. Well, when you buy them from us, you're going to get an instruction card where we go over all that. However, let's go ahead and talk about it. You can Google and you can look things online, and people talk about all kinds of stuff. Put water in the jar, put this or that in the jar, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that those bees are attracted to is the pheromones that they're putting off. That scent is drawing them into those holes, those old holes, those existing holes. It's like, well, how do they know? How do they know? They got good eyesight and they love that smell. So the best thing to do, one, they're going to enjoy the fresh smell. So honestly, we tell you to put it up empty. Just hang it up and they're going to find it. Once that first one gets in there, it's going to kickstart that whole thing and it's going to start going and thriving on its own. So you can either do that or smack one down, grab it, toss it in there. Let that smell get in that jar and then they're going to start coming to it. Leave it in there. Leave them in there. When you get about like 2/3 of the way full, go ahead and empty it out. Leave a couple in there. 1 or 2. That jar's going to be pretty stinky. In a good way. But you can leave a couple in there. That way that smell and those things are still in there. But that's the best way to do it. It's the easiest and natural. You're not going to come up with some weird remedies or put some nonsense in the jar that might deter it. Leave it natural. Leave it the way they like it. Put them in there with their scent. That's how we do it. That's how we recommend it. Again, if you got another thing, by all means, drop it in the comments. We'll help spread the word of what helps. All right, well, until next time, we'll talk to you. And don't forget to get one of these.